9 repaired. I was born with my hands in the air, and they said I'd be dead if I proved, just to prove I was there. Whoa, America, are you there? Are you there? Whoa, America, are you there? Are you there? From the mud that God had shaped us, I was born with my hands in the air. Burn your cross so Jesus sees us. I was born with my hands in the air. Where's my father? Someone shot him. I was born with my hands in the air. Raise your voice in a house of horrors. I was born with my hands in the air. Are you listening? Do you care? I was born with my hands in the air. All my sadness, all my laughter, I was born with my hands in the air. Whoa, America, are you there? Are you there? Whoa, America, are you there? Are you there? All right, America, are you there? Come on, gather around. We've got a beautiful day planned. Lots of love and compassion for everybody. So let's spread it today. We're very excited. Thank you so much for having us. We're the Winterlings from Seattle, Washington. We hope to meet all of you today. Thanks for being here.
Glory, glory, oh, glory, glory.
Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtapositioning us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots, we on the ground, the camera panned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, glory, glory, oh, glory, glory. Now the war is not over. Victory isn't won, but we'll fight on to the finish. And when it's all done, we'll cry glory, oh glory, oh glory.
Selma is now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing the League of Justice, his power was the people. Enemy is lethal, a king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald ego. No one can win a war individually. It take the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory. One day,
When the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours.
Wadeke Jr., also known as the Free Hugs Guy.
Wow, cool. It is so hot out here. Thank you guys all for braving the heat and coming out here. I see many people still kind of hiding over in the corners and around the trees. Please gather in. We're going to get the program started today. Thank you all for being here and supporting this message of peace and civility and love and being able to come together. It's just a really amazing sight to be standing here and looking onto the Washington Monument and knowing that behind me, Dr. Martin Luther King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. And it's just such an amazing experience. I'm looking forward to marching with you all. We've got some really amazing speakers here today, people who represent so many different sides and ethnicities and backgrounds, and we're all being able to stand here in support of peace. I look out, I see people wearing the Free Hugs t-shirts and the Restore Civility shirts, and this message is really important to me, and I hope that it's important to so many of you that are here and to people that are around the world that are watching it live on C-SPAN today. I think it's a really amazing experience. So we'll get started with one of our first speakers. We've got former Congressman Jason Altmire, who literally wrote the book on how to conquer polarization in Washington. During his 3 terms in House, Altmire was a bipartisan centrist known for working with both sides of the aisle. And in his new book, he offers some advice on bringing civility back to our nation's political discourse. Please welcome former Congressman Jason Altmire.
This is the perfect place to have this event. We are surrounded by some of America's most significant memorials that have to do with what we're talking about here today. Right over there, the black granite wall inscribed with 58,000 names. That wall symbolizes a time in this country when we were deeply divided. A time when it appeared America was coming apart at the seams. A time when violence occurred. A time when anger turned into violence. Americans turned against one another. And it was at about that time that one of America's greatest heroes gave one of America's greatest speeches right here at this memorial. And on that day, 54 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King stood here and told America we have a long way to go to achieve the civility, to achieve the peace, to achieve the unity and the equality that he knew was possible. And this spot, the Lincoln Memorial, represents the fact that this nation has, in the past, had times when we were even more divided than we appear to be today. The man memorialized behind me, who looks down at us right now from his giant white chair, he presided over America at the time of our deepest division. And that's the backdrop for what we're talking about today, the March for Civility. And what we're talking about today with this march is the fact that regardless of our politics, we have to find a way to increase the level of civility in our public discourse. We have to find a way to reduce the partisanship, because no matter your politics, today partisans think that all the facts are on their side, that all the evidence supports their conclusion, that they know better than everybody else what's right, that their side is 100% right and the other side is 100% wrong. But maybe sometimes that's true, but usually it's not. We have to work together. And one of the things I found in writing my book on political polarization is no matter how hard we try, it's nearly impossible to change the mind of a partisan on an issue to which they're committed. We all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different points of view. We all have different opinions. We all have different life experiences that lead us to different conclusions. But it's how we express those differences of opinion that matters. It's how we articulate our disagreements. We all have a responsibility for civility. We all have a responsibility to respect one another. And this event today is nonpartisan. We have people here of every possible political affiliation. And no matter what your politics, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, if you remember one thing I say today, make it this: the rules of civility also apply to you. Civility applies to all of us, not just those with whom we disagree. There's so much anger in the country today. There's things we'd like to change. But don't let an act of incivility discredit the goal you're trying to achieve. Like that great man who stood here in this spot 54 years ago, let each of us, in our own way, lead by example. Let us set the tone of the debate based upon our argument. Let us set the tone of the debate by our actions, not just our words. Win the debate based upon the merit of your idea, not the volume of your shout. Channel your anger into making positive change. Go forth in a spirit of unity, not division, because we really are all in this together. Thank you for being here and enjoy the march.
Awesome, thank you. So our next speaker, the way that I found out about him, with a lot of the work that I've been doing on the front lines at riots and protests, I was tagged in a video that someone had posted online about this documentary on Netflix titled Accidental Courtesy. And because they had tagged me, I decided to watch the film. And I was so fascinated to see the work that this man was doing as a black blues player that somehow for the past 30 years has been spending so much of his life to cross over lines to befriend members of the KKK, to get them to give up their robes and renounce their membership in the KKK. And I was so fascinated by this guy, so right away after watching the video, I ended up calling my agent and I said, hey, have you heard of this guy named Daryl Davis? And he said, Ken, I've been asking you for the past 6 months to meet up with Daryl Davis. He's been trying to reach you, and he lives out in Washington, D.C. So after watching that documentary, I started calling him up and trying to figure out how we were going to be able to get together. And we finally met for the first time last night, and he's here to speak. Welcome up, Daryl.
Thank you. Well, good morning. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here. Well, let me start by saying welcome. Welcome to the March for Civility. And I've been walking this march now for about 30 years doing what I do. And a few things that I've found is this. We spend a lot of time in echo chambers, surrounding ourselves with other people who agree with us. So everything we say is reflected back to us, and it confirms our beliefs. And we exclude those who may have differences of opinion with us. What we need to do is begin to invite people to our table who may disagree. As Martin Luther King said, he had a dream that one day the sons of former slaves would sit down at the table of brotherhood with the sons of former slave owners. That's what we need to do. We need to come together. We spend a lot of time talking about each other or talking at each other. We don't spend enough time talking with each other and learning about the other side, learning what are their false myths, their fears, and they learn from us. That's what I've been doing. I've learned that while you are actively learning about someone else, at the same time, you are passively teaching them about yourself. So you always want to be honest, you always want to be true, you always want to be civil, because the most important thing that you want is a return visit with that person, regardless of who they are, how extreme they may be. Because what you're doing is you're planting a seed, and you must nurture that seed. Keep in mind, you only have one opportunity to make a good first impression. You may have a second or third opportunity to make an impression, but only one opportunity to make a good first impression. And most people judge you based upon their first impression of you. So if they don't like you the first time around, they won't be willing to meet with you again. So I've been spending about 30 years meeting with neo-Nazis, KKK members, white supremacists, black supremacists, etc. And most of the times I do get a return visit. And as a result of these return visits, over time, you find things that you have in common. And if you nurture those commonalities, you begin to form a relationship. And as you form that relationship, the things that you have in contrast, such as skin color, religion, things like that, begin to matter less and less. And as you nurture that relationship, you begin to forge a friendship. And as a result, I've collected many robes and hoods and various neo-Nazi and KKK paraphernalia over the years. And I even have some of these people going out on lecture tours with me, speaking out against the evils of racism and discrimination. And they've aligned themselves with me and my embracing attitude. So what we need to do is we need to adopt an attitude of no longer can we say, I'm not my brother's keeper. Let's say we are our brother's keeper, because we all are brothers and sisters in this country. Thank you. The second most important thing that I've learned is this. Give your adversary a platform. Allow them to express their views. You don't have to necessarily agree with them, and if you do, that's fine. If you don't, then you challenge them. But you do it politely and intelligently, not rudely or violently. And that way, 9 out of 10 times, they will reciprocate and allow you to air your views. You make sure you've done your homework so you have the facts, so that you can present the facts in an intelligent and influential manner. Because at the end of the day, you each have to think about what the other person said. And if somebody just sparks a little bit and they think, you know, she does have a point there, they're going to lean in that direction. Because nobody wants to be wrong. We always want to be right. And keep in mind, when two enemies are talking, they're not fighting, they're talking. They might be getting a little loud and beating their fists on the table to drive home a point while they're disagreeing, but at least they're talking. It's when the talking ceases that the ground becomes fertile for violence. So let's keep the conversation going. Thank you all and good luck.
So to continue on with Daryl Davis's message about crossing over to different lines, many of you may have seen one of my most viral videos was as I was in the protests that were taking place in Charlotte last year. And there was a really special moment that was used in a Google commercial and a Cadillac commercial where as I was walking by and trying to de-escalate a lot of the tension at this protest that was taking place, there's this giant police officer. And as I was walking by, he says, "Hey, bring it in. Do I get one of those hugs?" And in that moment, I was really nervous because I had a group of protesters that were standing behind me that, you know, I was interacting with them, but I knew that in that moment they would see me as a traitor or a sellout because I crossed over to a different line and I hugged this cop. And I knew I was going to face some criticism for it. And almost immediately, people are picking up rocks and bottles to try to throw at me and challenge me to a fight, all because I hugged this cop. And so I love hearing Daryl's message about being able to cross over to different lines. And so that cop, actually, he reached out to me shortly after that interaction that happened there on the front lines. And we've become good friends ever since. And my buddy Chris Frunze is here today. Chris, come up. Look at how big this guy is. I'm going to look really short in a second up here. You can stand right there, Chris. They should. No, I'm kidding. Right. Come on up. So share with them kind of what was going through your head? Because a lot of people think that I just walked up to him and hugged him because I'm the free hugs guy. I actually, in that moment, was kind of scared to hug him because he's in full riot gear. He's got his weapon with him, and he's just big. And he has a bunch of his cop buddies all standing next to him. And I didn't know what was going to happen, especially because there's tear gas in the air. It was just a chaotic night. And I was shocked that he actually asked for that hug in that moment. And people thought that that was me that initiated that, but it was actually him. And so tell them kind of what was going through your head in that moment.
I mean, it's kind of weird. These
Here, let me lift that up. Here, I should hold it.
Up,
there we go. All right.
No, in that moment, it was going since Tuesday night, and I got 3 hours of sleep. We were in the city. We were bruised, beaten, and trying to help the citizens just take the city back. And when we finally got a break, I saw Ken walking with his free hug shirt, and I recognized him from his Dallas video, and I recognized his work, and I always wanted to meet him. So I just yelled out of spontaneous, just yelled out, "Where's my free hug?" And he looked at me with this puzzled look of, seriously? I gotta hug this big guy? He smells. He probably has all this gas all over him. So he came over and he gave me a hug, and we started talking. And it opened those communication bonds between protesters, police, him, and they're more willing to listen to him because I'm sitting there in riot gear and I look a little scary. So they were listening to him, they were understanding, and it brought peace for that one moment in our city, and it really helped out. And it's just an amazing friendship that bonded over it. I actually stalked him on Facebook for about a month, trying to get a comment in there so he'd see it. And we finally just met up, started talking, and we started organizing different community events and trying to build these bridges between police and the community so that we can all work together. We can stay strong. We stand together or we fall apart at the end of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what a lot of people don't realize sometimes is that in those moments, these unlikely friendships can be created. And I really see him as a true friend of mine. Many people don't know, when I was in Charlottesville just a few weeks ago, and I was standing in that alley when the car came through and it mowed down the 19 people that were there in the alley, I made 3 phone calls. One was to my wife. The other one was to my friend Dwayne to let him know that I was okay, and you guys are going to hear from him in a little bit. But the third call that I made was to my friend Chris, because I knew, I needed someone that was in law enforcement that kind of knew what was going on and can give me some advice as I was standing there shocked and distraught. I had never seen anything like that. To watch a car come in and just plow down 19 people right in front of me. And right away, before he even went into cop mode on the phone, he first wanted to make sure that I was okay and just really wanted to check up on me. And then he started giving me advice on what next steps I should take. And so I appreciate the friendship that has come out of that moment. And I think so many times we look at the color of people's skin, or we look at the uniforms that they're wearing, and we say, oh, I probably can't find a friend in that person. Chris is actually a very real friend of mine, and we've traveled around to some colleges together, and we've spoken to some of the young people about this message of unity and being able to come together. And we're going to do a whole bunch more of that, by the way. Yeah. He just got promoted to sergeant, so...
2 weeks going.
2 weeks ago, so...
They're still Velcroed on, so...
Right,
they come off at any point.
So just knowing that, now he should be able to have a little bit more free time to be able to spend with me as I travel around to colleges, and we really show students that there doesn't need to be division between us, and we're seeing so much of that right now between the black and brown community versus law enforcement, and we're brothers. There's no need for all of this division and tension and the conflicts that are going on around the country. We really need to be able to come together, and this is a symbol of that. So thank you, Chris. I appreciate you, man. Cool. Awesome. So our next speaker coming up, when I started this march, I had originally called it the Peace March because I thought, well, I think that's the message that we really need to spread in this country. And Dwayne, my advisor, he started having me travel around with, and I met a bunch of his friends. And in meeting them, they suggested that you don't call it peace, you call it civility. We need to take it back to the foundation of people just being able to treat each other with respect. And at the time, I wasn't even really sure what that word meant. And so I started doing some research, and I found out that right here in Washington, D.C., there's actually a National Institute for Civility. And I started doing some research on them and reached out to them to see if they would join us for this march. And we ended up getting their president here. Dr. Kalen, come on up. So I would love for you to be able to share with them a little bit about the work that you guys do with the National Institute for Civility. But either way, I still owe you a hug this morning. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Yes.
How about another round of applause for Chris and Ken?
Thank you. Thank you.
Ken used the phrase unlikely friendships, and I'm going to come back to that phrase as I talk. But both what we heard from Daryl, what we heard from Chris and Ken, is about the real extremes in our society where words have already turned into violence. I'm going to back up and talk about how we've come to a place in our society where it isn't just the extremes that have to come back together again and learn to listen. It's all of us. It's ordinary people living their daily lives. This has gotten so bad in our country that you now practically every day can see a cartoon someplace. Our favorite at the National Institute is this one. It shows civil discourse on a gurney on the way to the emergency room. At the National Institute, after the presidential election and during the presidential election of 2016, we literally got thousands of emails and social media messages from people in red states, blue states, purple states, all of them really distraught, frustrated, ashamed, angry about how we are speaking to each other and how we are treating to each other. We got thousands of emails saying, I don't want to go home for Thanksgiving. How am I going to talk to Uncle John? We got thousands of emails from workplaces saying that our best product innovation teams can't talk to each other after this election. Political historians tell us that this year is the first time since the Reconstruction and Jim Crow laws that we've seen the following reality. This is 10 months after our presidential election. And yet, Americans who voted for Trump, or I could say Americans who voted for Hillary, either way, it's happening both directions. We, the people, are still vilifying, demonizing, and hating each other. If we do that as a people, in our homes, in our towns, in our neighborhoods, there's no hope of us ever holding the people accountable at the other end of this mall for being civil to each other. This is now like a virus in our country. Democracy has always been a conversation. The quality of that conversation is what matters. Most of us have come to a place, and social media has really exacerbated this, the anonymity, that we're all broadcasters. We all want our message out. But do we really know how to listen to understand? So that's what we're doing at the National Institute for Civil Discourse. We've created a set of tools to revive civility person by person by person. We do it with tools that are one-on-one conversations, small group dialogues, large-scale conversations, and a texting platform. Try to remember this if you can. When you go home or this afternoon or while you're on the march, text 89800 and type civility into the message line. It will take you to a back-end script that actually walks you through how to have a conversation with someone very different than yourself. So I want to go back to unlikely friendships and highly recommend, go to YouTube, type in unlikely friendships, Donna and Bob. I'm an Iowan by birth. Donna Redwing runs One Iowa, which is the strongest gay advocates' rights organization in the state of Iowa. She, and to honor a friend of hers who passed away and was always dealing with people's reconciliation, she invited Bob Vanderkloot, who runs Family Leadership in Iowa, whose views on gayness, the two of these human beings could never come to any kind of agreement on what they feel and believe about gayness. Donna invited Bob to lunch. They go to lunch. They actually meet each other as human beings. And in that process, form the same kind of bond that Ken and Chris talked about, of a real friendship across profound differences. I'm going to ask you to do something right here, right now, as becoming one of the people who takes the next step to revive, restore civility. Right here, think in your own head. Who is someone? It may be in your family. It may be at your workplace. It may be someone that you know voted differently than you do. But think of a person where there's a risk-reward ratio if you did what Donna did, or if you did what Chris did, who asked for his free hug, Donna who says, come to lunch with me. Really, in your mind's eye, pick that person right here, right now. And when you're ready, invite that person to have a conversation with you. The critical thing to remember when you have that conversation, you're not trying to convince that person that she shouldn't have voted for Trump or that he shouldn't have voted for Hillary. What you're trying to do is, just like Daryl said, learn enough about that person's life experience to understand why they make the choices they made. We've now created a huge divide. People who are more on the left really think that Trump supporters aren't normal people. We've gone that far in our understanding, our lack of understanding of each other, and vice versa. So do exactly what you can do on a one-on-one basis. The text platform I told you, go there, use it. It'll teach you how to have that conversation with the unlikely person you just picked in your own mind. All of our tools ask you to actually pledge to be a civil citizen yourself, how to engage other citizens and elected officials, and how you can actually organize small community events to bring this in a larger moment across our country. To me, the mantra that should come out of today's experience together is, it's our time, it's our job to change this march into a movement. We will never get back the social norms of civility and respect if we don't create a real movement of we the people to be it ourselves and demand it ourselves. I'll leave you with a quote from President Obama. We all have likes and dislikes of people who are different than we are. But what is important is to, in fact, how we treat each other. Not whether we like each other, but how we treat each other. And finally, Margaret Mead, a real icon in our culture. Don't ever forget, probably her most famous quote, never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. We can do this. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So to continue with now this message of unlikely friendships, I would love to talk about the man who made a lot of this happen. You know, I think a lot of people think that it was all me, and it's really not. You know, to be able to have met such a friend that I had traveled to speak at his company, Aegis Living, and you've seen the logos in some of these places here. I know he's got quite a crew here as well. And Dwayne Clark is just a phenomenal man. I mean, I didn't know what to expect when I went to go and speak at his company, but the culture that he had there at that company, just how much everyone loved each other and respected each other. I thought they had been wearing free hug shirts the whole time, even before I even got there to that place, because everyone just was hugging each other and loving one another. And in getting to meet him, when I traveled there, you know, I'm thinking, oh, he's a rich CEO, you know how they are. But this guy was different. I mean, that first night after speaking at his conference, he asked me to go to dinner with he and his wife. And I went to hang out with them. It was the first time I ever cruised in a Rolls Royce, by the way. This guy's car collection is insane. And, you know, to know that myself growing up in and out of homeless shelters and on Section 8 and the way that my family struggled, I never could have imagined that type of a lifestyle where I hop in his Lamborghini one day, I hop in his Rolls Royce one day and just see the way that he lives. You would never think that a person like he and myself would have this genuine friendship. And the way he calls me regularly, his wife warned me in the beginning when we became friends. She said, he's pretty intense and he's gonna call you all the time. Just accept it. And I'm still working on that because he really does. He calls me a bunch of times and often I'm in the middle of things. But really, to be able to make this happen, as many of you guys can see, this stuff costs to be able to produce. And he teamed up with a bunch of his friends and co-workers and people that he felt really would connect with this message. And he got them all to rally behind it and support it. And that's how we were able to make a lot of this happen financially. And so Dwayne's going to come up. And I just can't tell you how much I love you and I respect you for everything that you've done to help me out, Dwayne. Thank you.
Hello, civility ambassadors. It's hot as Hades up here. If tomorrow wasn't promised, what would you do today? What would you spend today thinking about? How would you treat your fellow man? What would your legacy to this world be? That's right, your legacy. We're not here just marking time. Our actions are significant. What would we do? What would we say? How would we treat one another? It all matters. I want to share with you what I know and what I believe, some of which I learned at a young age, some of which is a work in progress. I'm going to tell you about 3 things that can not only help us be more civil to each other, but can help us be more successful in life. And hopefully, it will help you answer the questions I just asked. Those 3 things are about opportunity. They're about teamwork. They're about empathy, and they're about respect. But before I tell you about those 3 things, I think we can all agree that civility is a pretty simple concept. And when exercised, it's what most of us learned when we were in kindergarten. That's right, when we're in kindergarten. Don't be selfish, share everything, be kind to others whenever possible, and it's always possible. Think before you speak, keep your hands to yourself, don't hit anyone, put things back where you found them, clean up your own mess, don't take things that aren't yours, say you're sorry when you hurt somebody, wash your hands before you eat, and the important ones that my wife reminds me of, put the seat down and flush. These are not rocket science, but we should not devalue the little things that each of us can do because they add up to big things. These little things can change how we make a person feel about themselves. Anyone who's ever read an Aesop fable about the little mouse and the lion will remember the moral of kindness the lion showed by the little mouse by setting him free when he could have eaten the mouse alive. And how that kindness was unexpectedly repaid by the lion to the little mouse, by the little mouse to the lion when he set the lion free from the ensnared hunter's net. No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. And speaking of waste, the first thing I want to talk about is opportunity and how not to waste it. We all want and like opportunity. But sometimes we are so busy on our iPhones and our iPads, we forget the perfect opportunity. We miss the opportunity, the immediate opportunity before us. And that's the opportunity to treat the people all around us, the people who we encounter and engage every day, with kindness rather than disregard and hatred. Look around you. Look around you right now. Look at the people that are standing next to you. Say hello to them. Make friends. Don't waste this opportunity today. I grew up dirt poor in a little town called Lewiston, Idaho. I got my first job when I was 7. I know that sounds a bit silly, but it's true. My mom was a cook in a cafe. My 15-year-old sister was a waitress. I was the dishwasher in a small rural airport cafe. I would stand on a Dairy Gold milk crate so I could reach this big silver lever on the dish machine. But I love work. I love the opportunity. I worked every year since that time. Work was never just work. It was the opportunity that it provided me and continues to provide me to experience so many different people from so many different walks of life, so many different cultures, so many different stories that they have told me. I've never passed up the opportunity to learn and observe from other people. It's made me richer and a better person. I used to watch how my sister smiled as she waited on customers who sometimes never even looked at her. Her feet may have been aching and she may always not have been in a smiling mood, but she smiled nonetheless. I saw how my mom lovingly assembled meals that she prepared for them, for people she didn't even know, and how she always respected them and respected her employees, even when she was busy and had a stressful day. My mom believed in seizing that moment and being of service to others. She believed in kindness no matter what she was doing. And all this helped me grow and shape as a person and helped me develop my core values that have guided me in life, in business, and working with people. Never, never pass up the opportunity to treat someone with kindness. The second thing I want to mention is teamwork. Very few things happen in business or you're successful in business without a great team. It takes a team. That was a lesson my mother taught me. My mother was a British war veteran who married an abusive man, my father. She left her country in great hopes for promises of America. She divorced my father just as her oldest son was entering college. But that didn't deter her. With little job skills and barely knowing how to drive because my controlling father forbid her from getting a driver's license. She took a job as a salad girl making salads in a nightclub for $1.45 an hour. She put all four
Hug you real quick, man.
She put all 4 kids through college. It was an example of determination and grit. And the fact that if we all came together, no matter on what your race, your religion, your sexual preference, or whether you're left-handed or right-handed, we could do it. We could restore civility in our country. And it's not going to be the act of one person, a little village. It's going to take us all working towards a common goal. All the teamwork and being on the same team, each of us as an ambassador. And the last and third thing is empathy and respect. As the baby of my family and the much younger sibling, as a time came for me to go to school around my sophomore year in high school, around my 16th birthday, my mother came to me and said, "We have no money." Like a smart-ass kid, I thoughtlessly replied, "Oh, so what's new?" She quickly became serious and opened a small part of our fridge and lamented on how she spent her check on rent, utility deposits, and school supplies. She opened the dim fridge that cast a shadow on an onion, some condensed milk, and 2 sticks of butter. "I will borrow some potatoes from work and make some potato soup," she said. "Well, if you're going to steal some steaks," I said. And with that came a slap across my little fat face. If that slap wasn't a clear enough sign about her anger and her tone, she said, "We do not steal. We have never stolen. You will never stolen. we will borrow these potatoes and we will pay them back with interest. So at 4 a.m. the next day, we snuck into her place of work. We borrowed 8 pounds of potatoes, and we came home and we made potato soup together. And we lived off that soup for 13 days. And during the night and the day, my mother would talk to me about the success that I would have in this country because of the opportunity it had, because of the people that we have in this country. That if I applied myself and were kind to all people, no matter what their race was, no matter what their beliefs were, that I would be successful. And yes, we paid those potatoes back with interest 14 days later. And after I started my company, we created the Potato Soup Foundation, which has helped hundreds of people in times of need. That pain, although it lives inside of me 40 years later, has taught me the empathy for others. I have walked in their shoes. I know how it feels. A famous rock band by the name of U2 recently told the students at Georgetown University, not far from here, choose your enemies carefully. Make them something worthwhile. Incivility is our enemy. Incivility divides us. We may disagree on various issues and matters, but we can be courteous and respectful in doing so. We can dislike ideas, but we cannot dislike each other. We may always be able, we always should be able to walk in the shoes of another, but we can be symbolic to the struggles and challenges and neighbors our peers face. And if we all work together, if we all come together, this common goal and as a team, our success will be exponential. So in closing, I ask you again, if tomorrow wasn't promised, how will you spend today? How will you treat your fellow man? What will your legacy to civility be? What did your mother teach you about civility? God bless you.
Wow, thank you, Dwayne. Thank you. So our next speaker, so many of you are probably familiar with him. I know every time I log on to Instagram and different social media accounts, there's this cop that I see in Arkansas, and he's always out there and he's interacting with the students. And you can tell that he works in some pretty underserved neighborhoods, and you just see his love and his passion for the people that are in that community as he serves. And it's gained him a lot of notoriety as being one of America's favorite community police officers for just his passion and the things that he does in the community. And I'm honored. You know, I stalked this guy for a few months to try to get him out here. I was tagging him on social media, and I had seen that he had shared one of my videos, and I said, this is a perfect opportunity to be able to reach out to him and get him here. And he finally obliged, and he's here. Welcome up, Officer Tommy Norman. Oh, yes. Appreciate you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Ken. It's a big honor to be here. And thank you also to your wife, Sabrina. Congratulations on the upcoming new additions to the family. You know, give them a big hand. Yeah, I really don't feel worthy to be up here. When Ken contacted me, my days off at work back home in Arkansas as a police officer are Thursday and Friday, and it took everything to convince my sergeant to let me off today. And it worked out, but I have to fly back home tonight because duty calls in the morning. But it's a big honor to be here with my beautiful girlfriend, Rosalind, who's a big supporter. Rosalind, can you raise your hand? She's a big supporter, and I met a lot of great people in my short time here. And when I think about peace, growing up in North Little Rock, Arkansas, family of 9, I'm actually a twin myself, and we're the youngest. My mom always taught us to love each other and to love others, even if that meant that we had to do without. And so I followed that motto my entire life. I always wanted to be a police officer, was in love with police officers. They were heroes to me and still are, but I never thought I would be a police officer. In December of 1997, I tested to be a police officer back home in North Little Rock, Arkansas. I kept passing the written tests, the physical agility tests, the background, and passed every step there was to pass to be a police officer. And my career began June 15th of 1998. So I'm working on my 20th year. And I remember that early on in my career as a police officer, I always wanted to go into neighborhoods with open arms, to love people, because that's what my mom always taught her 9 kids. And as you know, mom knows best. And so I was a little reluctant at first because I always thought that all police officers did was write tickets and make arrests. I didn't know that police officers can hug people and can love people and can get out of their police cars and really form relationships. So I tried it, and I wasn't really sure if it was working. You fast forward to 2001, my shift had just ended at 2 p.m. The gentleman in Little Rock, which is right across the river from North Little Rock and is our capital city in the state of Arkansas, and he wanted to meet with me. He didn't tell me what he wanted. And so I go and I meet with him. He's at a gas station off Interstate 30, and he wanted to confess to a murder. He'd actually killed a man in a homeless camp with a 2x4. And so I call Little Rock police. They come over, they get out of their police cars, and they look at me and they ask me, "How did you find this guy?" And I told the officers I didn't find him, he found me. And so they put him in handcuffs, very peaceful arrest. They put him in back of their patrol car. And before they drive off with him, I asked the gentleman, "Why me? Why a police officer? You've never even met a police officer that works for another police agency. Why did you choose me?" Just my luck. The plane flies over when I speak. But he told me that word on the street that there was a police officer in a neighboring city that he could surrender to with dignity and respect. So that wasn't really a transformation for me. It was more of a confirmation that as a police officer, your badge should have a heartbeat and not an ego. But as my career furthered, I wanted to be more than a police officer. I wanted to, when my shift ended at 2 o'clock, I wanted more. So I went home, I took my uniform off, and I put on the same clothes that the community was wearing, and I went right back out, and I do it today. It's such a humbling experience to be a police officer, but not just a police officer, because it's not the badge that makes you, but it's the heart that's behind the badge that makes you. And so when you talk about we the people, you talk about you, me, us, we, them, they, everyone. It's not just police officers that have to make a difference. It's not just Ken and Dwayne and Aegis and the Free Hugs Project. Ken is an amazing person. He actually gives better hugs than me. And I don't know, Ken, if I was you, if I wouldn't start charging for those hugs. Anyway, I just want to share with you in closing, on my flight here, I listened to a song by John Legend, and the song is "If You're Out There." And some of the words that really stood out to me was, if you hear the message, if you hear this message wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait. And that's what Dwayne talked about. The future started yesterday, we're already late. And so, you know, my job as a police officer, when I go back to work tomorrow morning, it's parking my police car, it's getting out, it's sitting on front porches, and it's finding the forgotten. You have to find the forgotten in your community. The people that most of society would turn their backs on, we have to go find those people, form relationships, build trust, and build respect. So my challenge to you is, when these cameras are off and we all go back home, are you going to make a difference? Are you going to stay committed? I think that's really, really huge, is staying committed. All right? And so thank you so much for having me here. It really, really, really means a lot. I'm looking forward to the march and promoting peace. Thank you, Ken, Sabrina, and Dwayne. I really appreciate it.
So for our next speaker, to introduce him, I'm going to bring up two of my cop buddies that I met when I was on the front lines in Charlotte. And
More like your bodyguards.
more like my bodyguards. But it's such an amazing experience, you know, to have met these guys on the front lines of a riot that was taking place in Charlotte. And then last night, as we were coming back from dinner with Dwayne and we head back to the hotel, and we pulled up and we had seen Michael Brown Sr. sitting there in the lobby of the hotel. And knowing that the passing of his son, so much of the tension that had happened in Ferguson around that time, and just seeing the connection between here I am riding up with these police officers that I met on the front lines of a riot, and knowing that riots had taken place out there, and seeing him sit there, it really touched my heart. My wife had let me know too, oh man, it had really hit her as well. And to see these two gentlemen hop out of the car and go and greet him, and then even as I was leaving, the fact that they all just sat down there in the lobby of the hotel and talked amongst each other. And it was giving me goosebumps as I was leaving there and just seeing, wow, look at what this has done. That is civility, that's peace, and that's love. And then I found out from my brother-in-law later on, he said, I showed up at the hotel way longer after you left, and they were still just sitting out there talking as human beings. And so I'd love to welcome up Michael Brown Sr., who's here today. It looks like people are already stopping him for photos back there. Come on out, Mike. But, you know, it's to know that together, we're all in this thing together, you know. And again, just that sight of seeing all three of these guys just hanging out in the lobby, just talking as human beings, despite everything that has happened and what we've seen in the news and what we've seen in the media. And we still grow past that, and we're able to spread love and see each other as human beings. And it gave me goosebumps last night. It gives me goosebumps right now just to see these guys like this. It's crazy, you know. It's that dialogue, that civil discourse gets us to be able to have moments like this where the uniform doesn't matter, the color of our skin doesn't matter, and we're just seeing into each other's hearts. And that's what they saw last night as they had that dialogue. So please welcome again, Michael Brown.
It's one of my daughters. I'd like to say peace and blessings. I would first like to thank the families back at home in the streets of St. Louis for their constancy, dedication, and determination. You know, today is 7 days of civil obedience. I stand in solidarity. No justice, no profit. Our country is up on a state of emergency until Black Lives Matter. To say all lives matter is ridiculous. United we stand, divided we fall. As we all come together to the table in peace and unity for justice and equal. It is best to work with the Martin Luther King of this era or deal with the Malcolm X of this era. We must respect for ourselves and others. And whatever we do, we must take responsibility for our own actions. Then change will come. Thank you.
Awesome. So I want to go into talking more about civility. And when I saw the dictionary definition of what civility is, I felt like it wasn't enough. And so I kind of wrote down some of my own bullet points of what I feel civility is, and I'd like to share that with you all. Civility is our ability to be kind, empathetic, and courteous to one another. It enables us to disagree
without disrespecting each other. Civility is knowing that justice, it's not for just us, but it's for anyone that's being treated unfairly. A person shouldn't have to look like you in order for you to defend them when they're being treated unjustly. Civility makes sure that women are given equal rights and treated with respect. We were all carried by women. They literally gave birth to this nation. So it means that they can do just about anything that a man can do and things that we are not capable of. So how dare us, right? How dare us not give women fair pay and equal rights and better treatment and respect? It's so important. You know, being civil, it means knowing when to lower our voice in order to listen to each other with empathy and understanding. Civility sets great examples for our children to follow. It encourages them to embrace diversity and work towards becoming a more inclusive society. You know, it really bothers me sometimes when I'm watching in the news, and I saw recently, there was a few months ago, I think in July, and there was a politician who body slammed a reporter. And I'm like, our kids are watching these things. So how can we send our kids to school and tell them to keep their hands to themselves when they're seeing politicians body slamming people that are asking them for interviews? We have to set better examples for the young people that are coming up behind us. Thank you. Civility isn't just defined by how we treat each other, but it's also in how we treat our environment. Recently, we've experienced hurricanes, earthquakes, fires, and floods, and it's time for us to start making changes to increase our chances of survival. We only have one planet. We don't have a follow-up from here that we can just rush to after, you know, we mess things up here. And we're starting to see the effects of that now with so many of these, you know, we're hitting record height temperatures. It's hot now. And I'm, you know, seeing the hurricanes that are taking place just one after another in recent weeks. We've never seen anything like this before. So, you know, whether people deny that climate change is real or not, we do know that something is happening, and we need to be aware of that, and we need to be more concerned about the way that we treat this environment. Thank you. Civility, it gives us the passion to create jobs and opportunities to help immigrants, refugees, and people in need, rather than just leaving them to struggle or be forced back to countries where they fled persecution. It gives every person in this country a fair shot at life and the pursuit of happiness if they're willing to work for it. Civility is knowing that war should only be used as a last resort and not a primary way to resolve conflicts. We shouldn't continually be on the brink of World War III when we haven't even yet experienced World Peace I. And that's so important. Civility prevents incidents like the vehicular attack that took place in Charlottesville a few weeks ago, the shooting of the 5 police officers in Dallas last year, the massacre at Pulse nightclub in Orlando. Each of these terrorists represented a different race, a different ethnicity, yet they all shared similar hate in their heart. And we must teach America to love again. It's so important that we do that. You know, one of my most viral videos a year ago or 2 years ago was as I traveled around, and I had titled it "Make America Love Again," and I was shocked to see that that video had gone viral, because often I feel like this message of love and this message of unity, that many times people aren't willing to accept it. People feel like they need to choose sides with so many of these issues that are taking place. And we see that even with the crowd today. It's like if I had picked a specific cause that represented one side or another, I feel like the crowds would be all the way to the back towards the Washington Monument there. But you tell people to come together and stand together as human beings, and so few people come out to support that message. We're backwards. It's not okay. We need to really be able to celebrate togetherness and unity and love. And I appreciate so many of you guys that are out here today to support that message. And it's sad that we've become the minority, that there's few of us that are fighting for that rather than the polarizing messaging that's being sent out there today. And people seem so comfortable to just attach to one side or another and feel like they need to hold true to that. And so this message of togetherness, thank you, this message of togetherness, it's so important. You know, and so to continue on, thank you. Thank you. Civility stands here amongst such a diverse group of people as we celebrate unity. In this crowd here and the people sitting on this stage, we're black, we're white, we're brown, Native American, Christian, Muslim, gay, straight, young, old, police officers, activists, artists, musicians, and we're all able to stand here and sit on this stage together supporting love and equality. And this is what unity looks like. And this is what democracy looks like. And this is what the people united look like. And the more that we stand together, like this, we can't be divided. And we really need to grow in numbers, especially around this message of love and unity. And so lastly, civility is knowing that when we see many of these acts of hate, and we know that hate can be very loud, that it's important that our love gets louder. Thank you. I'm going to introduce Jim today from the Peace Sanctuary, and he's the reason why so many of these flags are here today. And he's going to lead us out on the march, and we're going to take these flags with us as we march the perimeter together here, and then we'll come back and we'll have additional speakers as we close out our program. So, Jim, I'll let you take over and kind of let us know how you want to.
You got it.
Yeah, all right, okay, cool. Thanks, Jim. Awesome.
Everybody. Thank you so very much, my sisters and brothers. As Ken just mentioned, my name is Jim Dugan. I'm here from an organization. It's called the World Peace Prayer Society. We're not religious. We're not political. We are just pro-peace. You've seen, if you look right up here, these white poles, there's 240,000 of them around the planet. They all say, may peace prevail on earth in different languages. And they are just a reminder for us. You can take them in your heart. If religious, they can be a religious thing. If you're a political thing. But you'll start seeing them if you've never been exposed. What we are going to do is now some physical action leading up to the march that really is going to show our unity. You guys know we all have brothers and sisters, cousins, uncles, aunts that have different political views, but when you look at it, we have so much more in common, and that goes across the whole planet. So what we're going to do is a little call and response. So friends, Americans, countrymen, lend me your voices. We're going to take a tour around the U.S., a tour of unity. Yeah! And we're going to go on the spirit of may peace prevail on earth, but we're going to give it to may peace prevail in every state in the nation. This is Sally Damon, my daughter. Yeah, and if you guys are ready to be loud and filled with love and filled with unity.
Alabama.
May peace prevail in Alabama. Give it.
Alaska.
May peace prevail in Alaska.
American Samoa.
There's a territory. We love you guys. We're thinking about you. May peace prevail in American Samoa.
Arizona.
May peace prevail in Arizona.
Arkansas.
May peace prevail in Arkansas.
California.
May peace prevail in California.
Colorado.
May peace prevail in Colorado.
Connecticut.
May peace prevail in my home state of Connecticut.
Delaware.
May peace prevail in Delaware.
District of Columbia.
Guess where we are? May peace prevail in the District of Columbia.
Florida.
May peace prevail in Florida.
Georgia.
Feel free to say this with me. You know what's coming. May peace prevail in Georgia.
Guam.
May peace prevail in Guam.
Hawaii.
May peace prevail in Hawaii.
Idaho.
May peace prevail in Idaho.
Illinois.
May peace prevail in Illinois.
Indiana.
May peace prevail in Indiana.
Iowa.
May peace prevail in Iowa.
Kansas.
May peace prevail in Kansas.
Kentucky.
May peace prevail in Kentucky.
Louisiana.
May peace prevail in Louisiana.
Maine.
May peace prevail in Maine.
Maryland.
May peace prevail in Maryland.
Massachusetts.
May peace prevail in Massachusetts.
Michigan.
May peace prevail in Michigan.
Minnesota.
May peace prevail in Minnesota.
Mississippi.
May peace prevail in Mississippi.
Missouri.
May peace prevail in Missouri.
Montana.
May peace prevail in Montana.
Nebraska.
May peace prevail in Nebraska.
Nevada.
May peace prevail in Nevada.
New Hampshire.
May peace prevail in New Hampshire.
New Jersey.
All right, now if you guys would do, I'm sorry. If you guys would do me one favor so it can be heard across the pond, let's give one real loud, may peace prevail on earth together. 1, 2, 3. May peace prevail on earth!
Back to New Jersey? Yeah. Back to New Jersey.
May peace prevail in New Jersey!
New Mexico.
May peace prevail in New Mexico!
New York.
May peace prevail in New York!
North Carolina.
May peace prevail in North Carolina!
North Dakota.
May peace prevail in North Dakota!
Northern Mariana Islands.
May peace prevail in Northern Mariana Islands!
Ohio.
May peace prevail in Ohio!
Oklahoma.
May peace prevail in Oklahoma!
Oregon.
May peace prevail in Oregon!
Pennsylvania.
May peace prevail in Pennsylvania!
Puerto Rico.
Here's prevail in Pennsylvania. Yes, thank you guys. We all know what they're going through. We love you. You guys are Americans down there. Thank you.
Rhode Island.
May peace prevail in Rhode Island.
South Carolina.
May peace prevail in South Carolina.
South Dakota.
May peace prevail in South Dakota.
Tennessee.
May peace prevail in Tennessee.
Texas.
May peace prevail in Texas.
United States Virgin Islands.
Another one that's just got a little wet and windy. May peace prevail in the United States Virgin Islands.
Utah.
May peace prevail in Utah.
Vermont.
May peace prevail in Vermont.
Virginia.
May peace prevail in Virginia.
Washington.
May peace prevail in Washington.
West Virginia.
May peace prevail in West Virginia.
Wisconsin.
May peace prevail in Wisconsin.
Wyoming.
May peace prevail in Wyoming. Now we're going to do something really special. I believe we have right here the Indigenous Unity flag. It was created to give respect and show unity with ourselves, with all our beautiful Indigenous men and women, LGBT, everybody in the Indigenous communities that we really need to give a little loving to, and they're way part of this country if we remember our history. So how about may peace prevail in the Indigenous nations? All right, and if we're going to end with one where we're all, that really shows the unity. I'm looking for the red, white, and blue we got. The United States of America. May peace prevail in the United States of America! All right, let's one more time, if we can, really, really loud, because we're not the only people on this planet. Can we do a really loud, may peace prevail on earth? 1, 2, 3. May peace prevail on earth! I love you all. We all love you all. I thank all the speakers here that have given their life. Look at the monarch. He's going to Mexico. We love you, Mexico. These people that are speaking on stage have given their lives to unity and peace and trying to make things better. I am so honored. We are so honored to be here with all of them. We're going to do a march. Ken's going to lead us off a little bit. We are taking a march. And if you folks on stage would grab a flag and take it out for the walk with us, and we are really psyched you folks are here. Once again, thank you for walking on this planet with me. I love you all very much. We love you all very much. Plant a peace ball, and may peace prevail on earth!
My honor. Give it up again for Jim and all his energy. I love it, man. I love it. Right. All right, so we're going to all grab some flags here, and we're going to head out on the march. The most important thing that I want everyone to remember with part of this march, it's that dialogue, it's the civility, it's being able to walk together and talk together. So we're not going to be doing too many chants and things as we walk. Instead, we're going to talk to each other. We're going to take pictures. We're going to give hugs. We're going to be able to embrace one another. Are you guys okay with that? Yes? Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to really continue this message of love and unity. If you guys grab some flags here, we'll all be joining you guys out there. I'm sure there's some people here on the stage that you guys want to take pictures with as we go out on this thing. Feel free to make it happen. Thanks, guys.
Yep. And you guys know, because we are all about respect in all of our hearts here, you wouldn't be here. These flags represent our brothers and sisters in all of our states who we truly love. Please show respect. Don't let the flags hit the ground. And when you guys come back, feel free to just put them back in the stand up here. Once again, you folks rock. May peace prevail on earth. Thank you.
Around 1 p.m. Eastern, the Foreign Minister of North Korea is speaking at the United Nations General Assembly. We'll bring that to you live on C-SPAN. Right now, we're resuming our live coverage of the March for Civility rally from the Lincoln Memorial with the second portion of their event. Organizers say the rally is to bring people together from different backgrounds to support love, equality, and justice for all.
Don't go anywhere. We're heading right back into our next set of speakers. We're going to roll a video really quick, and then we'll get this program started up.
Hi, I'm Mark Landsberg, founder and CEO of Social Deviant. We're so honored and thrilled to have been a part of the Civility March. And just a reminder to everybody, we're always better and kinder when we work together.
All right, so we are right back on pace with our program. And the next gentleman that's about to speak, it's such an honor that he's here. I grew up reading about this guy in history books and just being blown away by the work that their organization was able to accomplish. And, you know, I think a lot of times when people think of the Black Panther Party, they see these tough guys with their military berets and the leather jackets and things. But what many people don't understand was that they were out there putting together programs to feed young people and give them breakfast before school. They had their own ambulances and paramedic systems set up, and they were really out there to help their community and protect their community. And so it's such an honor that today Mr. Bobby Seale, one of the co-founders of the Black Panther Party, is here today. And, you know, I was blown away talking to him on the phone, just knowing that he's up there in age and knowing that I read about him in my history books, but he's still so sharp with the stories that he told me. And today was actually my first time meeting him in person. I've only spoken to him on the phone before, but he's here together with us all the way from Oakland, California, where the Black Panther Party was founded. Welcome, Mr. Bobby Seale.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Civility. I think of civil rights, civil human rights. Civility. I think of the first 2, 3 paragraphs in the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. A lot of people look at that and don't pay attention to it and see what it means. I started an organization in 1966 while I was working for the city government of Oakland, California in the Department of Human Resources. The year preceding that, a book came out called Black Power by Kwame Ture, then known as Stokely Carmichael, and some others. And they was hollering black power and had youth saying, we want black power, we want black power. And I was standing on the corner listening to them, and I walked up to him and I said, you're not going to get any power until you take over some of these political seats. What do you mean political seats? I said city council seats, supervisorial seats, the city council, stuff like that. Oh, them the white man seats. I said, you better try to make them some black folk seats. I said, because that's where the power is. These people make laws. These people use the money. They exploit you, do not deal with your basic desires and needs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You need political power. At that time, I did a demographic search across the United States of America to see how many black Americans were duly elected to political office, to see how many people of color and how many women was duly elected to political office throughout the whole of the United States of America. All the political seats. You have to imagine every part-time city council seat, every full-time city council seat, every county supervisorial seat, every sheriff's seat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I found out that there were 500,000 political seats that one could be elected to in the United States of America. 500,000 plus seats that you could be elected to. I also found out that there were only 52 black politicians duly elected at the time. Imagine this. That included a guy named Adam Clayton Powell out of New York. This is what I was looking at in 1966 as a young man. I had a great job. I worked in the engineering department, Kaiser Aerospace and Electronics on the NASA project, Gemini missile program. I wasn't worried about jobs. I had skills, I had abilities. I was raised a carpenter, a builder, I was an architect. By the time I'm 15 years of age, I had professions and skills. I was lucky. But I quit that job to work in this grassroots community, my community. And I created job programs beginning in North Richmond, California, 1964. I didn't create the Black Panther Party until 1966. I worked another program with the city government of Oakland. And then I decided to create this organization, the Black Panther Party. The things I did for the city government of Oakland, I was a community liaison for the North Oakland Neighborhood Service Center where I lived in that large community. And I did job placements when we got jobs. I did community service in the community in terms of family counseling. We did legal aid information, etc., and so on. But I wrote out the points that I dealt with and the points I was concerned with. Full employment was one point. Decent housing was another point. Decent education that taught us about our true history as human beings. Preventative medical health care. I wrote these points out. And at the time the Vietnam War was going on, I said that we didn't want to have to be fighting in any more wars, because African American people and many others, etc., had fought in every war this country has had from its very founding and very beginning. That 10-point platform and program went on to say that we wanted immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. Another point, we wanted fair treatment in the courts. All black people who've been tried by all white juries have a right to have another trial, so they have some people from their community representing the average reasoning person in the African American community on some of these juries and so on. And then I began to, after 3 or 4 days of outlining, I began to summarize this program. We wanted land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. But in summarizing it, a couple of days later in my office, working for the city government of Oakland, I ran across 2 paragraphs related to the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. The Declaration of Independence of the United States of America? Well, you had a lot of guys who thumbed their nose at that. They didn't want to hear it. But I read it and reread it, and it looked like it made a lot of sense to me. I paraphrased it. And a lot of people talk about militancy and what militancy is supposed to be. But in reading this 10-point platform and program, or reading this, and reading this Declaration of Independence, it said, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for any one people to dissolve the political bondage which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of humankind dictate that they should declare the causes which impel them to dissolve that political bondage of oppression, that political bondage of exploitation, that political bondage of lack of health care, that political bondage of every issue and every problem you can talk about today as they walk around trying to kill the health care program, et cetera, et cetera. It is a form of political bondage of humanity, people, whether you're black, white, blue, red, green, yellow, or polka dot. In the final analysis, that's what that bondage is about. How do we dissolve it? And another aspect of that paragraph, it stated, of the Declaration of Independence, it said, when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursues and invariably evinces a design to reduce a people under absolute despotism, then it is the right of the people to alter or change that government and provide new guards for their future security and happiness. Now, you, young brothers and sisters, people out here, you are all part of the new guards who are evolving. Whether you're playing music, whether you've been an engineer like I was, a carpenter, you have to forgive me, wow. I come up here. Will that work? Yep. All right, I'm just saying that when I went out there to try to capture the imagination of the people so I could organize them, I was going to organize a political electoral unity in the community who were miserably unregistered to vote at the time, because later on, 5 years later, we registered 24,000 people in a 2-year period in that community. But my point is, that's what I was about. And we went out to observe the police by law. We knew every law, every 10-point, all the Bill of Rights, you name it, we knew the interconnected relationship. And so when the police jumped up and said, you have no right to observe me, we said, no, California State Supreme Court ruling states that all citizens have a right to stand and observe police as long as we stand a reasonable distance away. A reasonable distance in that particular ruling was constituted as 8 to 10 feet, and we'll observe you whether you like it or not. I'm saying we recited the law back to the cop. It was not some macho crap. It was well designed. We knew every law. We knew how legal we were, and we were very, very legal. It took them 7 months to make a law out of the state legislature to stop us from carrying our legal weapons. And of course, we stopped carrying them because we do not break the law. And in effect, my organization became well known. And I only had 22 members when I led an armed delegation to the California State Legislature to make a statement against the law that they were trying to make at the time. I only had 22 active members in this organization. And suddenly, my organization was on front pages of newspapers all around the world in different languages, what have you, etc. But what I was about was not what a lot of the news people reported. What happened is I had to reorganize. First, they put me in jail for 6 months for going up there, not because of the guns, but because they say I disturbed the peace of the California State Legislature when I went to get my people who had accidentally went inside the assembly. My point is this here. That little organization, the next year, flourished. Before Dr. King was murdered, I only had 400 members up and down to the East Coast. They killed and murdered Dr. Martin Luther King, young brothers and sisters, all my brothers in the People of Color organization, all my white left radical friends and buddies and other liberals, they rallied behind us. The next thing I know, in a 7-month period, I got 5,000 members in the Black Panther Party. I got coalitions with 39 different organizations crossing all racial, ethnic lines, etc., and so on. And that happened as a part of American history. I'm saying this here, brothers, you understand. This struggle continues to this very day. Every issue we talked about in the 1960s, other organizations had the same issues. I'm telling you, all civil rights human organizations in one way, shape, fashion, form or another. And it continues today from the fact that they're here about repressing the vote of people of color, students and other people, etc. The very fact that they're doing that just so they can hang on to power to perpetuate their vicious, imperialistic exploitation of us, this humanity. So it is you, all of you, all you young folks, you have to understand this. You got to take this legacy. Now, I've been trying to make a film and a movie, but the right-wing people, the corporate frameworks, the money-rich people, the whoever, they've been trying to stop me. They stopped me from trying to make my movie because they wanted to take away my screenplay, and they wanted to try, and then they want to put up some crap that leans to the right-wing view of what we were about, which is erroneous. This struggle is a human liberation struggle around the world. We're talking about liberating through laws, through policies, through amendments, through new politicians, new guards, young folks, etc., who can take time to work together and unify, get laws and rules made that protect all the constitutional, democratic, civil, human rights of every human being on the face of this earth. This is what this struggle is about now. We are not disconnected, we are interconnected and interrelated. I'm saying that we really have to stand up and understand what the meaning of a future world of cooperational humanism is about. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, in every aspect of civility, we have to evolve a greater amount of people's cooperational humanism. Now, yeah, I published books, etc., power to the people, what have you, seize the time, etc., and so on. But this is what we got to do. And I say it, and I'm going to repeat it again. We need to reach, R-E-A-C-H, reach, aura, reclaiming, recycling, and re-evolving. E, economic and viral empowerment. A, around all peoples active and artistic. C, creative, cooperational. H, humanism, reach. We got to reach for the future. We got to reach for the present and reach for the future. We got to organize people. We got to get out here. And you and many others have got to encourage as many people as you can to get out here and be part and parcel of these next off-year elections. We got to get this whole congressional body shifted over to the progressive side. This is what we got to do. And we got to get more of these people so we can control this and make some new laws and deal with the climate change, deal with the infrastructure that's necessary to create the thousands of jobs that's needed at this time. This is all about your civic and civility and civic participation. It is about evolving greater empowerment of the people, of, for, and by the people. Thank you very much.
Give it up again for Mr. Bobby Seale. Great. So our next speaker I met as I had traveled last year. So many of us were watching the news and the things that were going on out at Standing Rock. And it really hurt my heart just to see that there were people that were being brutalized out there at that camp. And as I got there, I was very well welcomed by so many of the natives and indigenous people that were there. And one in particular, Erin Wise, I was so surprised by how calm she was in the midst of all the chaos that was going on around her. And she really helped me navigate through some of the things that were happening there at the camp. And she runs an organization called Honor the Earth. And I've seen her spend a lot of time also with the Indigenous Youth Council. So Erin, come up. Give a round of applause for Erin Wise.
I guess I should just start by saying that I do not run Honor the Earth. I work for a woman named Winona LaDuke, and by her grace, I am here. I'd like to begin today by acknowledging with great humility that the land where we gather today was once home of the Nacotchtank, Piscataway, and Doeg peoples. I'd also like to honor Chief Turkey Tayak, Piscataway leader and 20th century civil rights activist, allied with the American Indian movement, who led the charge to allow indigenous folks to self-identify here in this area. In spite of his arduous 16-year campaign for recognition from the United States government, the tribes aforementioned are still not federally recognized. Let us be aware that we are currently occupying their homeland, and though we may not see them here today, know that their presence is imbued in this land, these rivers, islands, and coastal plains. Let us also recognize that though our nation's capital may make a mockery of who we are as indigenous peoples with their national mascot, we are still here, and we have not forgotten that this country was founded on stolen indigenous land, on the heels of calculated genocide, and on the backs of people wrenched from their homelands. Now, I'd like to draw attention to the man seated behind me. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln, who many know as the Great Emancipator, sentenced 38 Dakota men to death on December 26th in what is still known as the largest mass execution in United States history. In 1865, 2 Dakota men who had escaped the first mass hanging were caught, returned, and executed in the same merciless fashion as their brothers. Here before the Lincoln Memorial, I would like to honor those that died in resistance. Lila Wopira Tonka. As you can tell by all that I've mentioned thus far, when it comes to my and other indigenous people's relationship to being treated with even a modicum of civility in this country, we have little good to recount. We have watched the thread of humanity stretch, wane, and tear catastrophically since our lands were first taken from us. This past year in Standing Rock, North Dakota, I was among thousands that joined a youth-led resistance against the Dakota Access Pipeline in peace, prayer, and nonviolent direct action. Because we exercised our constitutional treaty rights, we were met with brute force, militarized police, dog attacks, and non-lethal weaponry that caused irrevocable damage to all our relations that were in attendance. More than 800 people were arrested during our time on the plains, and to this day our sister Red Fawn is being held as a political prisoner, currently on day 331 for a crime she did not commit. Is this not reminiscent of our brother Leonard Peltier's kidnapping and last 41 years in maximum security lockdown? A remarkable thing about the occupation of the prayer camps in North Dakota that many people may not know is that we began every single day in unity. Whether it was through prayer, ceremony, song, or silence, we reminded each other every single day, remember why you're here. You're here for future generations. One of my favorite women in the world, a woman by the name of Shug Avery, once said, "Everything want to be loved. Us sing and dance and holler just wanting to be loved. Look at them trees. Notice how the trees do everything people do except walk to get attention?" When we began our days in Standing Rock, we venerated everything around us. It wasn't just those that we could see that we fought for, the people we came from that we rose to protect on the front lines. It was everything around us, just wanting to be loved in the here and now, but also the glimmer of future generations we could see in the midst of our musings that needed us to ensure their existence. In camp, the kids called me Ina, our mother. I took care of the International Indigenous Youth Council for almost 5 months, and every day I would hug and pray till I was blue in the face that they would come home and hug me again. On the front lines, it was these youth that were the first to receive the staggering might of government-sanctioned violence, and it was from the mouths of these young people that we most often heard the words, "We forgive you, we'll pray for you." Even in our darkest moments when we cried out to our foremothers and ancestors for protection, the youth were steadfast and persevered. Now, many have written off me and my peers as being self-obsessed narcissists. Millennials, they cry when we use social media to document oppression. Millennials, they write, when we lay bare the bones of institutional racism that deter us from success. Millennials, they jeer, when we form barricades around our relatives who face unjust treatment in this, the generations to come, you should be. We are, without asking, rectifying the many injustices we have grown up seeing as commonplace facets of our global communities. We are ensuring through use of voice, education, exercising of constitutional rights, and civil disobedience that there be a world for those to come to inherit. We are doing this with simple acts of kindness, recognition of personhood, inclusivity, and intersectional organizing, as well as badassery of all kinds. We are unpacking the historical traumas we've carried since this country's inception, and we are learning how to forgive in a way that our foremothers and ancestors were denied the right to do. We are here to take back our languages, lands, and cultures, and we are doing so with unprecedented decorum. If you look around this nation and wonder at this point in time in 2017 where your leaders are, you need only to look to your youth. We are more than ready to take up the mantle. We do not need to fearmonger, condescend, sexually, verbally, racially, or physically harass others in order to be validated. We recognize that our very existence is a direct result of the resistance of the thousands that came before us, and we are here to honor those ancestors. We come only as human beings, home to one mind and one heart, humbled by the works that we do and the compassion that we carry. Should you ever lose hope in the world around you, look only to the young people and remember that though you may not see us, we are out there fighting for you, even as many of us remain oppressed by a system that may benefit many of you. If I, a Hickory Apache and Laguna Pueblo woman, adopted daughter of the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota nations, raised on a reservation that was created as an act of war against my people, can stand before you today unapologetically alive to decry the institutions conceived to destroy me, imagine what my peers and those that succeed us will be capable of. It is an acknowledgement of my generations that I want to close. My mama said recently, your generation doesn't care about sexuality, you don't care about gender, race, religion, or monetary status, so what do you care about? I had many answers for her, but instead decided to respond by asking a question of my own. What kind of ancestor do you want to be? I wake each morning with a desire to do good, empower others, and preserve what is left of this place for those to come. This is what I think about when I walk into the world. Today I encourage you to ask the same of yourself and continue to rise alongside fellow human beings and remember why you're here, to harness your dignified rage and love in spite of it. Ihan.
Awesome. So, next up, I spent a lot of time traveling around to schools over the past year to talk to young people about how we need to be better and we need to come together. And one school in particular was right here in Washington, D.C., called the British International School. And I was surprised in talking with the students there how much so many of them were familiar with the work that I've been doing on the front lines. And I was shocked because some of those videos are pretty intense, and it was interesting to see that their educators are sharing those videos with them and their family members are sharing those videos with them. And so young people are very aware of what's going on in the world around them. And so today I've got my good friend Joel Ginsberg from the British International School to talk about how youth are the future. And then we have a young student, actually, not from the British International School, but someone who I met just traveling around and doing some work at YouTube, and I've just been blown away by the things that she speaks about in her message. So first up, welcome up, Joe.
Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. So, you know, in my work, I'm a counselor at the British School of Washington, and it's interesting the way that I met Ken. We were going to be doing a thing in our Seale class, which is the social emotional aspects of learning class, where we were going to just show a little bit about how one person can make a difference. All they have to do is have an idea. And I came across Ken's stuff on YouTube, and somebody from our school contacted one of his people. And it was interesting, when he came to the British school, I had two goals for him when he came here to Washington, and one was to get him to Ben's Chili Bowl, which is a local place, and then also was to get him to come to the Lincoln Memorial to take a picture. And obviously, we're in a much different place of what he's done with that idea, and he's created an amazing opportunity for himself. But when I work with youth, I was talking with somebody the other day about this. I always have had the idea that teenagers, children, they're going to be the ones who change our future, not just because they get old, but because they have the answer. And I was asking someone, a bunch of different people, and one answer rang out, and it was, young people are always changing their minds. And if young people change their minds, they're always learning. They're going to be the ones who can adapt. We as adults often don't adapt. And when we think of the word civility, sometimes we lack that civility when we talk to youth. So there's two things in particular that I think we could be doing as adults to be working and showing our youth that future. And one is to create those opportunities. For educators that are here, if you could look up the Sustainable Development Goals, if you just hashtag Teach SDGs, that's one way of looking at it. By 2030, we can get lots of different opportunities. This past year, we had a few students that we brought to the UN with some of their ideas. Just create opportunities. And the other thing is forgiveness. We make a lot of mistakes, especially in our teenage years and our years as a kid. And as we walked the march, we passed the Korean Memorial, and my father fought in that war. And you know, in my teenage years, it wasn't always so easy. And there's people who were teachers to me who showed me love. My mother always showed me love. She showed me you treat everybody with respect. But it wasn't until my teenage years with teachers like Steve Bador who showed me that love, and another teacher named Tom Griffith, who, it's interesting, they were right by the Vietnam Memorial, because he taught me that you never stop loving those who fought for this country. And here we are standing before this crowd and before all of you with an opportunity. But we make a lot of mistakes. So showing love to those teenagers, showing love to those kids, and giving them opportunities to grow is the future. And I'll give you Presley, because I'm sure she has some ideas herself. Thank you.
Hello, can everyone see me? I hope you guys can. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much to Ken and his team for giving me the opportunity to speak here today, and that I really love what's happening at this event. Usually, I say that the people that come to an event like this one aren't the people that need to hear the message, because they all already agree with one another. But here, everyone almost certainly disagrees in some way with someone speaking on the stage. And I think it's pretty cool that we can all come together and talk about being civil to one another even if we disagree, and that we don't have to hate each other just because we disagree. It can be scary to see hate surging in our country, but I like to think of it as the death throes of hate. There's less hate in my generation than there was in the last one, and there'll be even less in the next generation. It's amazing to see what can happen if we just take the time to get to know each other. And there are kids that are being taught hate, but there are more of us than there are of them. And later, some of those kids will become my friends, and they'll change their minds, just like the work that Daryl Davis is doing. Of course, we won't always agree, but usually what makes us different is what makes us interesting, and it's nothing to be afraid of. It's really scary to see the hate surging in our country, but it's a lot less scary if you think of it as the dying gasps of hate losing this battle, rather than hate taking over our country. That being said, these dying breaths and the resurgence of hate isn't something we can ignore. To quote the Hamilton musical, there's a revolution coming in this century. It's not hard to feel that. And revolutions aren't bloodless, but there are already people out there who are willing to fight those battles. I'm here because I want to be sure this revolution is less bloody than the last one, and to make sure that we're all setting the foundation for us to come together on the other side. And I'm so glad there are so many other people here that feel the same way. I'm also here because I want to represent hope for the future. I promise that the work you all are doing now will be in good hands in the years to come. And I promise that me and my friends will continue to stand up for what we believe in, but that we will do so without hate and without violence. And with the hope that if we all come together, we can make real change and we can create the world that we want to live in. Thank you all so much again for inviting me out here and hearing me out, and let's all work together to make the world a better place.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Blows my mind every time she speaks. Wow. Her parents are doing such a phenomenal job with her. I mean, when I walked into YouTube studios in LA and met her for the first time, and by how well she speaks at 12 years old, you know, and to know that when her dad started sharing with me her story, and I think by the time, when she was 8 or 9, when the riots were taking place out in Ferguson, and she told her dad that she wanted to go out there to experience what it was like, and that they went there. And I think that's just so phenomenal for someone to want to be able to take it all in, to figure out how they can help. And it's just so amazing. That's her father there, and such a great family. Wow, amazing job, Presley. Thank you. Our next speaker, Elisa Parker, she runs a organization called See Jane Do, and it's about inspiring women to do amazing things, and girls as well, young people. So it's just phenomenal to know that this type of work it's continually being pushed out there. And so Elisa, come on up, and love for you to share your message.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks. Hello, DC. How's everybody doing? All right, we could do better than that. How's everybody doing? That's right. That's what I'm talking about. You know, Alice Walker says people give up their power by thinking they don't have any. Now, before you start questioning your power and thinking, I don't have any power, I'm not talking about the power over, right? The philosophy that if white privilege, for example, feels on top, that when we look at justice, that there is someone else powering over. I'm talking about power with. Are you with me on power with? Power with and power to is the power that we're talking about. I'm humbled to be here and standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and I'm also so mindful of the extraordinary women and the shoulders that I stand on, and we as women and men and amazing young women who we just heard are standing on. I know as we look here at the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson Monument, that there were women who were standing behind them. And it was only several months ago that I stood here in solidarity with 2 million other women, and I call them our man fans. Who else was at the Women's March, right? Something happened that day. Something happened that moment when for many of us as women recognize that it was not the purpose for me to be there to celebrate one person. It was more so to recognize that all of these extraordinary women and men are stepping in, engaging into our full power to make a difference, our power to love, our power to show up with justice and compassion. I like to say that there was a spell that was broken that day. And while some of us might have felt devastated, A spell was broken when many of us recognized, many of which my sisters of color have been living through their entire lives and lives prior to that. That as we woke up, we recognize I matter. I have a voice. I'm here on purpose. To know that you are here on purpose. I know sometimes it feels a little crazy. Do you feel that right now? It feels a little wild right now. I look up in the stars right now and I look at these stars forming like a nebulous. A nebulous is birthed out of chaos. It seems wild, crazy, sometimes harsh and intense. But also know that there is a star being created, that there are dreams being created, that there are possibilities and imaginations that we could never even have foreseen before, like at the Women's March when over 5 million people rose up around the world. Right. Even being here today, I could never have imagined this would be possible. Meeting Ken, connecting that with women and see Jane do. I come from a small town. I live in a small town. We're called the Rural North in Northern California. We are red, blue, purple, green. We know how to show up for each other despite some of our political differences. My friend Sheila Cameron says, it's like when we have an issue, a restaurant, for example, flooded in our community, that we show up together. We have spaghetti feeds. We have pancake breakfast. We put aside our political differences and say, you matter to me. And we show up for each other. And I'd like to believe that as we are showing up here today, in civility and love, that we can have this huge pancake breakfast, right? For all of us to say we all matter, that we can all see the humanity in each other, that we all have value and worth. The town I live in, little town, Nevada City, California, actually the birthplace of the 19th Amendment, where it was first formed, women's right to vote. It then took over 90 years for women to get the right to vote. Do we want to wait that long to see civility and justice? No. And I recognize in that moment of being in this little town that it goes far beyond. And here we are with C-SPAN. So not just with us here in this room on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, but we are carrying this message across the world that we will not stand to wait for 90 years to see the humanity in each other. Will you stand for that? Will we stand for justice? Will we stand for love? You know, I often say that there is a moment like we saw at the Women's March when you have a choice and thinking, what will I rise for? You never know when you will be called to rise. You never know when you will be called to rise. I remember when I was 20 years old at 16th Street and BART station, when I lived in San Francisco, I looked over and saw a woman getting beaten by a man. And as people started walking down, putting on their blind sides to ignore it, I stopped mid-sentence with who I was talking to at that moment and said, hey, you, leave her alone. And in that moment, he dropped his hands, he got in a car, and he left. You never know when you will be called to rise. You never know. In that moment, we rise up. When we see children who are going hungry, will we rise up? We rise up. When we see our Indigenous brothers and sisters in Standing Rock, know that we are connected. Do we rise up for them? We rise up. When we see our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico and Florida and the Virgin Islands who are suffering right now from floods and this dynamic force of our only planet called Earth, do we rise up? We rise up. When we as women see other women and we start to judge each other or compete, I'm even saying when you're like, look at what she's wearing, will we show up for her? Will we rise up for her? Yes, we rise up for her. We have a moment here. We have an opportunity. There's a reason why you showed up today. There's a reason why you could have been anywhere. Sabrina, she's having twins, Ken's wife, and 3 children. She could have been anywhere today. But there was something about this moment. So let's take this moment. And think about, how am I going to rise up from here moving forward? How am I going to see the value and worth in myself? How am I going to see the value in each and every one of us? In fact, take a moment. It's Free Hugs Project. I would love for you to take a moment and look at the person next to you. You don't have to touch them. It's okay. If you want to, you can. Feel free to give them a hug. Connect with them and look at them in the eye and say, you matter to me. You matter to me. You matter to me. Thanks, Ken. It's so important that we drop it and love it. I have two teenage daughters. And I remember we all remember, right, ladies, growing up in middle school, high school. How often would we look at a woman who's standing in her power and say, she is so full of herself? But what if we shifted that? Shouldn't we be full of ourselves? Shouldn't we be full of love? Shouldn't we be full of compassion for ourselves? Right. Shouldn't we be full of justice? Shouldn't we be full of good health? What else do you want to be full of? Shout it out. Hope. We should be full of hope. What else? Love. Faith. Peace. What else do you want to be full of? Civility. Take a moment just to breathe in. Empathy. Compassion. To be full of ourselves in that way. If we are not full of ourselves in that way, how can we imagine that we will be able to give any of that to anyone else? If you are not holding that and seeing that within yourself and holding the love, compassion, empathy within yourself, how can we give that to somebody else? And that is our moment right now when we are asking each and every one of us to step up, to engage, to do something you've never imagined before, to be courageous, to say, I am the one we are waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And while it might seem crazy and intense and wild, and I will not lie, sometimes it feels very hard, but to know that we have each other's backs. And there is a reason, my friends, while you are here today. I am so deeply in gratitude for all of you for being here today. And as we move forward on this, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I have a dream. We are that dream. As the young lady said before, we are the change we've been wanting to see. The question is, will you embrace that? Will you take that and being full of yourself and move forward to create a dream and the world that so many who stood in this spot for hundreds of years are saying the time is now. The time is now. And will we rise up? Will we rise up? Thank you so much. I'm Elisa Parker. It's been an honor to be with you.
Awesome. So when we were out on the march, it was beautiful to be able to see all the flags and the different people marching together. And as I had the bullhorn and I had shouted out, I've never been to a protest where I've marched alongside so many police officers, with activists, with civilians, and everyone being able to come together and shout out the same chants that we're supporting unity and love. And so I just want to thank some of the officers that are here today that really support unity and do amazing work in the community. And so one of our next police officers that I'd like to bring up is Deputy Brian Woodard to come up and speak about some of the work that he does sharing in the community. Come on up, Brian. A round of applause. Dallas, right? Dallas.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deputy Brian Woodard. I'm representing Dallas County, Texas, Precinct 2, located in Dallas County. I'm deputized under Constable Raymond Nichols, located in Garland, Texas, is where our headquarters is, and I traveled all the way from Texas to be before you today. Before I say anything, I want to go ahead and let everybody know, to make sure that I stand before you, to let everybody of all colors all race, all nationalities, all genders, whatever you are, whoever you are, that you matter. Everybody matters. And another word for everybody is all. All lives matter. No matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, no matter if you've gotten in trouble before, you matter. The March of Civility is a march of peace, a march of hope, a march of love, because that's what we need in this world today. We need to bring love back, peace back, love back. And one thing about love is universal. It doesn't matter who it affects. Love affects everybody. To that young man who has problems with his parents or who's being disrespectful, a lot of parents want to give up on their children, but guess what? God still loves them, I still love them, and I know you still love them. People who are having a hard time being on drugs or being strung out, that think that everybody cares about them and nobody cares about them, they've given up hope. God still loves them. I still love them, and I know you still love them. Even behind the prison walls where people have made mistakes, because nobody is perfect. Just because you've been to jail before does not mean that you are a bad or evil person. And I want to make sure everybody understands that, because the world is so quick to outcast you when you do one thing wrong, but they forget about the love that can be within you. There are a lot of people out here today that you don't even know that have been through so much, and you don't even know their story, and you will be quick to go ahead and judge them before anything, before you love them. One thing God tries to do all the time is to get our attention. These hurricanes that's going on, destruction, riots. And speaking of the hurricane, it shouldn't take a hurricane to bring people together, because when everybody came together, nobody was worried about statues. Nobody was worried about Confederate flags. Everybody was worried and concerned to love each other. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your religious background is, no matter what kind of group you're from, period. Nobody was focused on the negativity. Today, when you look on YouTube, look on Facebook, all kind of social media, Instagram, Snapchat, there's so many, I can't even name all of them. Every time you turn it on one of those pages, all you see is hate, hate, hate. Somebody fighting each other. Somebody getting into it with law enforcement officials. Somebody killing their own family members or killing each other. Crimes being committed online. That's what the media is showing to our children, to everybody around the world, and that's what they think how some people are, and that's what they think law enforcement, they think that we're evil when we're supposed to be out here protecting them. It's all about what the media is showing you and what you're watching. It's all about what is being come on your TV or what you're seeing on YouTube, because the news gets all their negativity from social media. Today, no matter who you are, and I am going to ask you to do this, since the news is here, we're going to give them something to know about, something to love about, because love still does exist. That person that's sitting next to you, you don't know them, you don't know their story. Hug that person. This is a Free Hugs Project. I want the news to see everybody getting along, no matter who you are. You don't know this person, they don't know you. Give that person a hug for being here. They want to be here for the same reason I want to be here. My motto that I always say on every page, on my Facebook page, is I refuse to see hate live while love dies. And all that is saying is I don't want to see all the negativity that's going on in our world today versus seeing all the love that's going out there. I want love to prevail. We need to bring love back. All the negativity videos, all the children videos of them fighting in the streets like dogs, I refuse to see hate live while love dies. All people killing each other in the streets and putting it on Facebook Live, I refuse to see hate live while love dies. To all the hatred groups that hate one another, that don't understand the meaning of what love really is, I refuse to see hate live while love dies. I'm Deputy Brian Woodard. Thank you all so much for having me. God bless you. And I love you. Ken, thank you for going ahead and bringing me up. Thank Ken. Y'all give a hand clap for Ken for inviting me.
We're going to cut to some music really quick. We've got Naomi Washira that's going to play some music for us today. Naomi? Awesome. Give it up for Naomi.
So tight. There we go. Sorry. Yep, that's perfect. Wonderful. How's everyone doing today? Good afternoon, DC. It's such a privilege to be part of this event. I'm a woman. Clearly, I'm a woman. But I'm a woman who's determined to make this world a better place with my words and my guitar and my music. And so I'm going to sing a couple songs for you guys. And I hope that you're inspired, you're empowered, that you're reminded that you're good, that you came from love, and that you're capable of doing so much goodness in this world. So this first song I'm going to do is a song called We're in Trouble.
It seems that we have not learned the mistakes of those who've gone before us. Oh, 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 whoa, 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 and we have not taken notes from the Holocaust, genocide, segregations, and the Crusades. No, oh, oh, whoa, whoa, 'cause when one man declares his religion is better than the rest, you know we're in trouble. And when one man declares his race is superior to the rest, you know we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. You know we are in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. You know we are in trouble. Oh, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. How long will we allow pride to dictate the way we treat our fellow men? Oh, 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 oh. And how many wars could we have solved if we just learned to live in grace and mercy? Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause when one man declares his religion is better than the rest, you know we're in trouble. And when one man declares his race is superior to the rest, you know we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. You know we are in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. You know we are in trouble. Oh, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. How long will it take before we realize that we are in this together? I said, how long will it take before we realize that we are in this together? Oh, and if you hurt your brother, you hurt yourself. If you hurt your sister, you hurt yourself. If you hurt your brother, you hurt yourself. If you hurt your sister, you hurt yourself. 'Cause we are in this together. Oh, we are in this together. Oh, we are in this together.
Thank you. This next song is a song called Up in Flames and was inspired by the Baltimore riots a few years ago. And the question is, where is love, where is kindness, where is empathy? Because I believe that those are the things that are going to save the human race. So this is Up in Flames.
Sometimes I feel like I don't have what it takes keep moving on. I look to my left, I look to my right, and all I see, faces down, fear in our hearts. People just keep throwing stones. Faces down, fear in our hearts. People just keep throwing stones. No, am I the only one who thinks we're gonna go up in flames? No, am I the only one who thinks we're gonna go up in flames? Yeah, 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 yeah. Bad news keeps happening everywhere, everywhere I look. And I'm losing faith in what we can be, yeah, yeah. With our faces down, fear in our hearts, we just keep throwing stones. Faces down, fear in our hearts, we just keep throwing stones. No, am I the only one who thinks we're gonna go up in flames? No, am I the only one who thinks we're gonna go up in flames? Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, now where is kindness? Where is love? Where is mercy? Where is kindness? Where is love? Where is mercy? Where is kindness? Where is love? Oh, 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 no, am I the only one who thinks we're gonna go up in flames? Oh, am I the only one who thinks we're gonna go up in flames? Oh, am I the only one who thinks we're gonna go up in flames?
Thank you so much. This next song is a song called Beautifully Human. It's a song celebrating the diversity of the human race, regardless of where you come from, what your sexuality is, who you believe in, don't believe in. I believe that everyone is sacred, is beautiful, and deserves to be celebrated. And so this song is really about that, celebrating all of us.
Strange, we I know that I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. I know that I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. Don't make me prove why I should be, why I belong, why I deserve to be here. I deserve to be here. Don't make me prove why I should be, why I belong, why I deserve to be here. I deserve, and I know that I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. I know that I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. I know that I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. I know that I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. So is anyone who can walk, who can talk, who can laugh, who can cry, who can feel pain. So is anyone who can speak, who can hear, who can see, who's never had a free mind. So is anyone, whether brown or white or any other color. We're beautifully human, beautiful, beautiful, beautifully human, beautiful, beautifully human, beautiful, beautiful, beautifully human, beautiful. We're beautifully human, beautiful, beautiful, beautifully human, beautiful. We're beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have one more song for you guys. My name again is Naomi Washira. I'm from Seattle, and Kenya is my original home. And I'm honored to be here. And this will be my last song. It's my favorite song I've ever written. It's a song called African Girl. And I couldn't think of a better place to sing that song than in this space, when I remember so many men and women who stood here and have said incredible things. So I'm honored to share and to pour my own words into this space. So again, thank you so much, and peace and love to all of you. This is African Girl.
See, I've been walking down this road for about 40 years now, and I can tell you it's been one hell of a ride. And I've been carrying my father's words that he said to me, learn to be wise, walk with integrity, and be honest. And I can hear my grandma say, child, I've got nothing to give to you, but may God be with you in that distant land. Yeah. I am an African girl. Well, I know where I'm coming from, and I know who I want to be. I am trying to defy everything they said of us, we who have chocolate skin. In the back of my mind, all I can hear are the voices, those who are here, those who've already gone. And I can hear them whispering, oh, 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 oh. What are we told when you go to their land? Please represent us well. And I can hear my grandma say, child, I've got nothing to give to you, but may God be with you in that distant land. Yeah. I am an African girl. Well, I know where I'm coming from, and I know who I want to be. I am trying to defy everything they said of us, we who have chocolate skin. So I will sing, I will sing, I will sing. African girl, well, I know where I'm coming from, and I know who I wanna be. I am an African girl, well, I know where I'm coming from, and I know who I wanna be. Thank you all so much, and hope you have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.
Wow, such a beautiful voice. Such a beautiful voice. Sounded amazing, Naomi. So, her song about faith, you know, that's going to play in my head for a while. And our next speaker, she was sharing with me, actually just recently, about how faith got her through a tragedy that her family experienced, and to know that that carried her through so much that she started an organization called Faith Always Wins. And today we have Mindy Corcoran here to share a little bit more about her story and her organization.
And I get a step stool. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Ken, the Hugs Project. Thank you to Aegis as well for sponsoring this event, the Civility Project. Restore Civility, that's why we're here. I want to tell you that one person can make a ripple for bad or for good. I flew here from Overland Park, Kansas, where 3.5 years ago, my father and my son were fatally shot in a religious hate crime. In April 2014, a 73-year-old man claiming to be a white supremacist murdered my father and my 14-year-old son at a Jewish community center. He then left that community center and went to another Jewish location and murdered another woman, Terry Lamano. My father, William Corcoran, and my son, Reed Underwood, were at the community center for a singing audition. When the shooting happened, I was one of the first on the scene. And when I arrived and I saw my father, already deceased from a gunshot wound to the chest, I felt and I heard the words, "Your father's in heaven, go find Reed." I found my son Reed only a few feet away behind the truck that they had driven, and he was in the arms of 2 good Samaritans who were trying to save his life. Evil, hate, and all the negativity from our world never entered my mind that day when I gave them a hug as they left my house for a singing competition. I had no idea that religious hate still existed and that it was in my own community. Of course, it shattered me and it shattered our family. I hope that you cannot imagine how it tore my heart out and it took my soul away. Even though I believe, and I believed then, that they were in heaven, I struggled with my faith, and I struggled with faith in God and faith in humanity. A few months after this shooting, I was then invited to a mosque. I had never been to a mosque, but I was invited to a mosque by the family of a 15-year-old boy who had been run over intentionally by a man in an SUV with anti-Muslim writings on his window. It was another religious hate-filled murder, and again, it was in my community. It happened near a Somali community center in Kansas City. I went searching after that. After I spoke at this vigil, I went searching. I searched my own faith. I searched Christianity. I searched Judaism, and I searched Islam. And I was really looking for why. Why is there so much religious hate that it would lead to these two destructions so close to my life? And what I found instead of hate was I found love. I found that many of us are dealing with loss, and many of us need to be connected and find one another in faith and hope and love. I found that these other people that I was now engaging with, that we had so much in common. We had ripples of commonality, and I found that faith transcends religion. Today, 3.5 years after these murders, I have been through the 7 stages of grief, and I continue to go through them. Together with family, friends, and our new community, we created a foundation called Faith Always Wins. And then our Faith Always Wins Foundation created an event called 7 Days, Make a Ripple, Change the World. 7 days full of kindness. 7 days full of positive ripples. 7 days to overpower ignorance, fear, and hate. We can make enough ripples of kindness to redirect someone who might be considering hate. We have that capacity in each one of us. There's 7 days of an experience, 7 days with a unique focus. They are love, discover, others, connect, you go onward. Love, extend a hand, a heart, a smile, or a hug. Discover that others have so much more in common with us than we realize. Others who are different. We need others in our lives so that we can learn from them, teach, and grow. Connect with those that are also dealing with losses. You must take care of yourself to take care of others. Not selfishness, but selflessness and self-care. And go and actively make a ripple. Know that you have that in you. And then onward. Some of us, like myself, have had evil thrust onto us. And it is very difficult to find a way to go onward. I did survive because of my faith, and we're helping other people go onward through 7 days. After the religious hate-filled murders that crushed our family, I had no idea if my faith would survive. I didn't know if my faith in God or my faith in humanity would be able to make a ripple of bad turn into a ripple of good. But I stand in front of you today, in front of the Lincoln Memorial, very humbled and very honored to tell you that my faith was strong enough and that your faith can be strong enough too. You can make a ripple to change the world. You do not have to be overcome by evil. And we will make ripples of kindness, of faith, hope, and love. So please join me either in our community, in your community, or digitally with 7 days, Make a Ripple, Change the World. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mindy. So our next speaker He's a professor of conflict resolution, and he's a nonviolence trainer. And we met through my agent at Conscious Campus, and where he travels around to schools and also spreads a message of civility and nonviolence. So give it up for Dr. Arthur Romano.
What an honor it is to be here and to be invited to speak about the role of conflict resolution now in the United States and in our world. I think one of the powerful things that we see today is that people are doing this work every day. Folks are coming together. They come together across religious lines, Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus, and others working in interfaith coalitions, right, to make change in their community. Folks are working to create a just economy in Jackson, Mississippi, in the mountains of West Virginia, in the heart of Detroit. Mediators are bringing people together who've had parts of their lives shattered and who are unwilling to come to the table to talk together again for the first time. And as I stand here, it's hard not to think about Martin Luther King. And when we think about Dr. King, I think we often think of this I Have a Dream speech, and almost every word perfectly chosen, but Martin Luther King was Marty to his friends, right? And some of his biographers say that he was notably quiet in class. And similarly, even with other famous peacemakers that we know, like Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhi's biographers say that he was an ordinary child. And what did they mean by ordinary child? They mean he was scared of snakes and scared of the dark, and he ran home multiple times on his lunch break for fear of being bullied. That from somebody who faced the British Empire, brutal, controlling through military means 85% of the known territory and planet Earth, and pushed them out and created self-rule in a little over a decade. So in my own work, I do research, and my colleagues at George Mason University, we study how people learn conflict resolution. And the good news is that conflict resolution and having difficult conversations and organizing for social justice and change, those things can be learned. And it sounds so simple, but it's profound, right? Because if those things can be learned, then we can invest in teaching them. And I don't mean teaching them necessarily at the university only or in classrooms, but I mean in our communities, because some of the best conflict resolvers and people who are working for social justice, right, don't have official titles that bear that name. They don't have a business card that says, I do conflict resolution, or I work for justice. And so I think that's the good news. On the other side of it, on this theme of civility, I think we need to also consider that civility sometimes can be used for negative purposes. Civility can be used to minimize people's anger and loss. Civility was used in the civil rights movement to say civil rights activists are outside agitators and everything's fine right here in Georgia. We know exactly what to do. When a white man walks down the street, black folk know to step off the street. It's already peace here, right? That's a negative peace. That's a status quo peace. And so sometimes with peace building, we have to stir the pot. Sometimes some things that are hidden. I often talk to my students about this. I say, how many of you went home for Thanksgiving break? Raise their hands. How many of you had a conversation that started something like this? Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. I've been thinking. And how many of you saw your parents and relatives start squirming in their seats as you started to explain to them about how you're questioning the world? Right? We're not born courageous. We become courageous. And the ways that we diffuse conflict and stand up for justice can be taught. So then we have this question, then what are our priorities? Because if I look past that monument, I see our Congress. And when I see our Congress, I think about the fact that last week they passed a bill that will invest $600 billion in the military. That's more, our military budget, than every single nation in the world combined. And are we safe yet? Do we not feel scared? How many guns? How many bases? Until we reach this place where we feel secure. Our security lies in our relationships, in our ability to have conversations when it's difficult. And what we see are old conflicts, right, that are rising back to the surface. This is not new in the United States. I think it's very telling that we pull down Confederate monuments at night. We have to look. I think it's telling that right over there, beyond the monument, we have an African American Museum of Culture, and it arrived here in 2016, even though the mall was built, right, by African American people. And so I think in conclusion, we have a great opportunity, because if peace can be taught, and these great people, Martin Luther King and others who've worked for peace, aren't born on a pedestal, if we're not born courageous but we become courageous, then that means every one of us has a shot. But to do it, we're going to have to invest in it. And here comes part of the hard part, I think. I don't believe this will change without us really, this investment in war and this investment in a kind of false sense of security will change without us really rising up and challenging it. Right? These things are not voluntarily given, they're taken, and I mean that in a very much a nonviolent way. But that we stand up and we say, we want to invest. We want to invest in our people so that our people can bring out the best of each other. We know that democracy is not just about a voting booth. Democracy is us coming together and solving complicated problems together. So I think in bringing this to a close, I think we're at a powerful moment, because the one thing is that when you take that stuff that sometimes is hidden and that stuff that makes you squirm at the table at Thanksgiving, and that stuff is available to see, then the very fact that it's arising means that there's a chance to deal with it. And I'd rather live in a moment where the conflict can be seen, where we have a chance to work with it, than trying to do the hard work of convincing people who are not affected by it that it's there. So for those of you that have been working to bring people together across lines of difference, those of you who've put your bodies on the line in the streets for months, I commend you, I thank you. And we have a powerful moment, I think, to build peace in this country. Let's demand that we invest in ourselves.
Amazing. So next up is Cody Blackbird, who is a fellow artist at Conscious Campus, where many of us speakers are represented by an agent, Greg Bura, who's actually here with us. And Cody is a Native American flutist, and so he's going to play some music for us and share a little bit about his work. Cody, let's do it.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cody Blackbird, and I just wanted to share a little bit about myself and where I come from. My grandfather was a proud American Indian veteran who served in all 5 major battles of World War II and was a 5 Bronze Star Award recipient. My grandparents on my mother's side were immigrants from Romania, Romani gypsies who came here escaping Hitler's wrath. I'm a survivor of many things in my life, but one thing that I'm proud to be is a survivor of oppression and genocide, because I know what pain is, and I know what it is to feel it in your DNA, in your blood, and in your spirit, to know that at one point your people tried to be, they were almost conquered. But we're still alive, we push through today. through efforts of this, through restoring civility within our communities, change can happen. One thing I've learned is that, we don't need revolution. I've not heard one revolutionary on this stage today. I've heard evolutionaries. Because when we have revolution, that's to revolve. That's to go back to a new way of the old way. It's to go back to a way that is broken. But to evolve, to have change, it starts within yourself. You change yourself, you change your family, you change your neighborhood, you change your community, you change your city, town, your state, your country. You can change the world. Every one of us here, every one of us that is placed here on this earth has the ability and the power to change the world. But it all starts within yourself. And you can't restore civility without recognizing truth. And you can't restore civility while believing in understanding or thinking you have the understanding of a false narrated history. So awaken yourself to the truth and the realities that surround you. That everything isn't just fine, that we have our work cut out for us. But by being here and by stepping forward and stepping up, you're being a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem. Just like it was said earlier, when we put those positive ripples out there, we can do anything we set our mind to, including conquering hate. Thank you. I'm gonna do a song. Part of myself is how I said being a survivor, how I found peace within myself, and being a victim of a flawed mental health system growing up was through music. And this instrument has taken me all around the world. And so I'm gonna share with you guys a song that I wrote. It was off my album, The Journey. This is the title track off that album that won me the 2012 Native American Music Award for Flutist of the Year. Thank you.
Like a pack of sharks who smelled blood. This is how a Truth Commission lawyer has described the killers of American student Amy Beale. Beale was attacked and killed by members of the Pan-Africanist Students Organization in Gugulethu near Cape Town in August 1993. This week, her murderers asked for forgiveness from her family and friends and claimed a political motive for their roles in her death.
The 25th of August 1993 starts out as an ordinary day in Cape Town. But the townships around the city are in a state of political tension as a result of student and teacher protests. On this day, PASO, the PAC students' organization, is relaunched at Langa High. Fiery political speeches are made by local PAC leaders. Emotions run high. After the meeting, a large crowd ends up in the nearby township of Guguletu. Meanwhile, American Fulbright student Amy Beale, who worked as a researcher at the University of the Western Cape, is driving through Guguletu, giving 3 black colleagues a lift home. Then the white woman is spotted by the inflamed group, and 2 worlds collide. At the end of sustained stoning and stabbing, Amy Beale is dead. Her young killers have maintained their innocence up to now. But this week, Ndobeko Penny, Mzikona Izi Nofamela, Vusumzi Ntamo and Mongezi Mantrina told the TRC's Amnesty Committee in chilling detail why they participated in this horrific attack.
When the PASO executive members ordered us to go out and prepare the groundwork for APLA and to make the township ungovernable, I regarded this as an instruction to also harm, injure and kill white people. When I saw that the driver of the vehicle which we had stoned and which had come to a standstill was a white person, I immediately asked one of the comrades in the crowd for a knife. For me, this was an opportunity to put into practice the slogan, "One settler, one bullet."
Mantrina admitted for the first time that he'd inflicted the fatal stab wound to Amy's heart. In his affidavit, Vusumzu Ntamo claims that though he's mentally handicapped, he was nonetheless a faithful follower of PASO.
Even after Mantrina had stabbed Amy, I still threw stones at her. At least another 4 or 5 stones. I threw stones at her because she was a settler.
If you did hear from the passengers that she was also a comrade that day, would you have acted any differently?
I don't think so.
Can you elaborate?
At the time, we were in very high spirits, and the white people were oppressive. We had no mercy on the white people. A white person was a white person to our eyes.
You see, what I'm going to suggest to you, Mr. Nofamela, that the attack and brutal murder of Amy Beale could not have been done with a political objective. It was wanton brutality, like a pack of sharks smelling blood. Isn't that the truth?
No, that's not true. That's not true. We are not such things.
When I look closely at what I did, I realized that it was bad. I took part in killing someone that we could have used to achieve our own aims. Amy was one of the people who could have, in an international sense, worked for our country. I ask Amy's parents, Amy's friends, relatives, I ask them to forgive me.
Linda and Peter Beale showed little emotion as they listened to their daughter's killers, but they pledged their support for the truth and reconciliation process.
We unabashedly support the process, which we recognize to be unprecedented in contemporary human history.
The Beales, who say they're committed to continuing Amy's work for women's rights in South Africa, spent most of Friday with the Mosaic Women's Group in Guguletu. They've come to terms with Amy's death, but still find it hard to believe that she died just 2 days before she was due to return home to California. When we left Linda and Peter Beale at Guguletu, we came to the site where their daughter had been attacked. Only these dried-out flowers serve as a reminder of Amy Beale's brutal killing here at NY1 Guguletu 4 years ago. An act which the Amnesty Committee now has to decide was either a politically inspired murder or a racial one.
The mother at the center of that story is Miss Linda Beale, and I had the pleasure of meeting her yesterday, and it takes a lot to be able to forgive someone that took a member of your family, and to forgive a group of people that took a member of your family. And I'm just so overwhelmed by her heart, and in meeting her last night, she's such an amazing and sweet person, and it's really an honor that you're here today. And please welcome Miss Linda Beale to come up and speak to us and share her story about forgiveness. It's just such an amazing story.
Wow, it's hot. Amy's story happened 24 years ago this past August. I was 50 then, so you have to realize this is not just an immediate thing. And do you get over it? How do you deal with it? And I really wanted to show that video because obviously this is a more complicated, global, international, apartheid South Africa kind of a thing. Are we like that? Do we have apartheid in our country? Do we see similarities? As an American family who were taken over to South Africa to kind of calm things down because the great Nelson Mandela was starting, they were not yet at the elections. And a lot of people, media, white, black, all kinds of people said to us, number one, your daughter was crazy, and you were crazy to let her go to South Africa. You should be shot. We had skinheads, we had all the hate, but we had love, and we had the support of amazing people that still remain friends today. I wanted to show you the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a little bit of how it works. It's a little complicated, and it's not perfect. Archbishop Desmond Tutu was the chairman. They worked very hard as South Africans to bring about a restorative justice to their country, a healing sort of justice, a justice that Desmond Tutu always refers to as Ubuntu. A person is a person through other persons. They also tried to get at the truth. So a lot of people sat there in that environment with their earphones and our language issues and said, they didn't tell you the truth. Do you know when I heard the truth? When Tobacco said, we wouldn't have killed her because she would have been better for our cause.
We're going to leave the March for Civility now to take you live to the United Nations in New York City.